Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. I'm Birds of View Politics, and in this video I'm going to be continuing my coverage of the war in Ukraine. So first off, we have the Belarus president Lukashenko being hospitalized in critical condition just after meeting Putin. And you may be asking, well, why is he hospitalized? What happened? Was he poisoned? We don't know. We have no idea. But we do know something else. We know that this was just after Lukashenko offered nuclear weapons to anyone willing to join the Union state of Russia and Belarus. And I know many people don't know what that is, so I'm just going to pull up this image. This image is all the different groups that came up after the Soviet Union fell. You have the Baltic Assembly between the Baltic countries. You have the Community for Democracy and Rights of Nations, which is the various different separatist groups, pro-Russian groups. You have Guam, or Georgia, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, and Moldova, which is mainly an anti-Russia group. It's composed of 4 countries who are generally anti-Russian, at least currently in their foreign policy. You can see Turkmenistan's kind of on its own. It's not part of anything with Russia. You can see this is Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and they are kind of integrated with Russia. Even the Eurasian Economic Union, that's usually Russia's closest allies: Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Armenia. And of course, last but not least, the Union State. The Union State is Russia and Belarus, and it is the highest level of integration between any of the states, and its stated goal is actually a merger of the two countries. Of course, Russia being so much larger would be the dominating power. However, the dictator of Belarus has a lot of stuff owed to Russia, especially to Putin, because it was Russian security forces who helped him stay in power after he rigged election results to help the Belarusians. So that is something to take note of course, and now he's offering nuclear weapons to anyone willing to join the Union state. But it continues with, of course, he's been hospitalized, he's in critical condition, although we have no idea how long this will last. This could all be a ploy, this could be many things, we don't really know, but it is major news nonetheless. We also have Russia ramping up their Kyiv bombardment, and they also congratulated Erdogan from Turkey on his successful re-election. Erdogan from the right to even far right of the Turkish political spectrum, defeating an opposition alliance first in the parliamentary elections a few weeks ago, and now he has just won in the second round of the presidential elections against the opposition candidate. And this is a huge win for the Turkish right, a huge win for Turkish Eurosceptics, and more importantly, a huge win for Putin. Erdogan is much less pro-NATO, pro-Europe than the opposition candidate or the opposition at large would have been, and he also is much more friendly to Russia. He usually maintains a neutral stance, although earlier in the war he did sell some weapons, even lethal weapons, to Ukraine. But for now, he is going to probably shift back into a much more neutral stance, because while the Turkish people are very much anti-Russia, Erdogan himself is not, and Erdogan probably shifted more towards a pro-Ukraine stance in order to not be attacked as I guess, a Russian puppet, even though the opposition nevertheless attacked him for being pro-Russia. We also had Bakhmut finally fell in the east to the Russians, so that is going to be a major win for Russia. However, the troops that they lost taking Bakhmut might be could have been used better elsewhere. They might be just too much for Russia to lose at this time. And well, how do we know this? Well, we know this because as I'm recording this today, we had some new updates to the casualty figures, especially in the last week. We've had a lot of new updates. I tend not to take Ukrainian officials or Ukrainian government estimates too accurately, because they tend to vastly overestimate Russian losses and undercount their own, and I don't take the Russian estimates for the same reasons on the flip side. However, I do tend to take the US or Western officials relatively I guess, correctly, and I believe that they seem to point to one clear story. By March 1st, this is according to the, remember, leaked documentation, so this was probably meant to help Russia if it was leaked. especially because it's someone leaking it from U.S. archives. So these, I would assume, would be facts because the U.S. said that they had been manipulated in some fashion, but we don't know yet. So I'm going to take these as the fact. As of March 1st, we had 131,000 casualties, roughly on the high end, estimated for Ukraine by the United States, but we had 223,000, so almost 100,000 more on the high end for the Russians. And this has only increased even towards May now, May 25th. The Ukrainian government says 205,000 losses, but once again, we don't really know because they use combat losses in liquidated, and so we don't really know because they could include wounded soldiers, but they could also just only refer to those who were killed, and they haven't really said what that is. But what we do know is that the Russians are losing huge amounts of men and material in their invasion of Ukraine, and that ammunition they lose, that's going to have to be purchased from Iran, purchased from China if China is sending them weapons, which we really don't have confirmation of yet, although it appears that way, from North Korea. It also means that Russia is going to have to try to evade sanctions more, and that is increasingly difficult, with especially China now saying that they're willing to enforce these sanctions. So that is a huge, huge, huge thing for the Ukrainians, knowing that while Russia is depending on ever older tanks, bringing in tanks from the 50s, from the 60s, the T-55, the Ukrainians are getting the newest tanks. They just got an entire new battalion of new armored vehicles. They're getting new weapons. They're getting Patriot missile defense systems. They are getting huge numbers of equipment. And while some of the Western nations, such as Germany, are now starting to pull back in how much they're willing to give to Ukraine, overall, the support for Ukraine remains very high, and support for Russia, even in other countries such as China, appears to be waning. So that's just something to take. So, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.